It's 56 days to the polls. Hello and welcome to Election Brief on your election headquarters. I'm Arba Kumson. Our headlines today: 3 independent candidates, 14 political party aspirants. All of them want to be president. What do the numbers mean? Is it a sign of growing democracy or a cheap presidency? We'll find out. For the first time, we have 6 women in the thick of this year's presidential race. What will this mean for the future of female representation in Ghana's politics? We'll analyze that. And later, Asante Hene Otumfuo Setutu II charges political parties to follow laid down procedures in resolving disputes which may arise during the December elections. We are live on your DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. On Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, follow JoyNews on TV. We stream on myjoyonline.com. On YouTube, we are JoyNews TV. Stay tuned in. Thanks again for your time. Now, the Electoral Commission on Friday closed nominations ahead of this year's presidential and parliamentary elections. For the first time in the history of Ghana, we have 17 prospective presidential candidates, 3 independents and 14 political party aspirants. The Electoral Commission is yet to clear all of them and then ballot for their various positions. Well, the balloting is, however, subject to the advice of the Technical and Information Technology Committee. We'll go into the technicalities shortly, but first, it's a good time to know your aspirants. So let's start with Alfred Kwame Walker. He's an independent candidate, and we also have Nanado Dankwa Ekufuado, MPP presidential candidate, Christian Kwabena Andrews, that's Sofotria Bosom, flag bearer of the Ghana Union Movement. We have John Mahama, who's a NDC flag bearer. Okay, so we have Henry Herbert Latte, who's representing the GCPP, Great Consolidated People's Party. Ivor Greenstreet representing the Convention People's Party. And we have Kofi Koranteng, he's an independent presidential aspirant. Ekwa Donko, representing the Ghana Freedom Party. Akwesi Adai Odike, he is representing the United People's Party. And we have Nana Ejenim Boateng, who is leader of the UFP. There's also, of course, Kwesi Busumburu. He is representing PAP. Percival Kofi Akpalu is representing LPG. And, of course, Bridget Akosua Jogbenuku, representing the Progressive People's Party. And there you see in your shot, John Dramani Mahama, NDC flag bearer, Nana Addo Dankwa Ekufuado, MPP flag bearer, Nana Kunedu Ajiman Rawlings, of course, leading the National Democratic Party. Also, Merrick Kofi Gane, he is an independent aspirant, and David Asibi Apasera, he represents the PNC, the People's National Congress. So with the Electoral Commission set to announce to the nation how many of them successfully filed their nominations, let's assess what impact this number will have on the elections. Now, head of our political desk, Evans Mensah, is here with the analysis. Good to see you as always, Evans.
Good to see you,
17 aspirants for 1 seat. Is it a sign of growing democracy, or has the presidency become cheap?
I mean, it's, I guess it's what democracy is supposed to be. As in everybody else who want to contest and is qualified according to the Constitution to contest as president, can contest as president. Because the Constitution defines what qualifies you to run as president. once you meet that criteria, I don't see anything else that stops you. Apart from the issues of practicality and also issues of one's suitability to do the job. Away from this, it's a legal question, but there's also the question I see about proprieties to some extent, right? So you have political parties that have done absolutely nothing in the last 4 years. I saw GCPP in a list, and I am like, goodness me, is GCPP still a political party in this country?
We know GCPP to some extent. What about PAP?
Yeah.
We know nothing about them.
They fall in the same bracket. I mean, my point is a party that sort of, they almost emerge weeks to an election.
Right.
There must certainly be something wrong about that. I mean, it's if you haven't played any role in the political space, you don't have a policy document out that's in the manifesto. We don't know who your, because this is from my independent candidate, right? A political party, there are rules, laws governing the way a political party must run. The Political Parties Act, for example, says a political party its internal processes must be democratic. So questions that arise, obviously, all these political parties that somehow just popped up, have they satisfied that? But if they haven't, is that enough to sort of take away their constitutional right? Because you want to be president, there's a set of rules and the constitution that you must meet. I think really it's time we look at that again.
Right.
Because other than that, we're going to have people really take advantage. What we know, people take advantage of this for many reasons, right? We've seen in the past political parties and individuals coming up overnight to run because it raises your profile, right? You get a seat at the table somewhat. What we also know, the two main political parties sometimes use them for their own purposes, okay? So that must be looked at, investigated. The Electoral Commission has a role to play in this. And I think we need to have a bigger conversation about what we are seeing going into the elections. Right.
In past election years, we've seen, high numbers like this, not unprecedented like this, but we've seen high numbers. At the end of the day, not everybody made the cut. What would the Electoral Commission be looking out for in weeding the wheat from the chaff?
I mean, the Electoral Commission, when they pick their nomination papers, it has a criteria that you have to meet. You have to get endorsement from every part of this country. Right. Okay, so that is one of those mechanisms you put there to whittle down the numbers, because you must show that you at least have a following and a certain sort of groundswell of people across the country who at least know you and believe in what you stand for, to be willing to endorse your forms for you. That is one key important criteria. But you see, in a country where we have poverty is quite high, you can procure these signatures very easily. Okay, the intention of that administrative process is to whittle down so we can have people who actually have representation on the ground. But we know that in this country, if you have money, you can buy your way around this. Right. So he's going to look at that. They're going to look at the documents they filed. Remember that in 2016, they disqualified a few of them.
Which is why they set up two committees. They announced that they had to look into this particular
Dr. Pakwisindum went to court and won, right? But the others stood. Right. I expect that to happen again. But this is really what strikes me as pretty interesting. They raised the filing fee to 100,000. We all complain about it. Right. And the ECs have argued that the filing fee is one extra layer in trying to sift the numbers, because if you can't raise it, then you probably don't want to be there, right? But all of them have filed and paid the 100,000 cedis. It's a lot of money, right? I wonder where they got the money from. Plus, you're not going to get it back, okay? Unless you get a certain percentage of the votes in the national elections, you don't get it back. All right. So they definitely not going to get that percentage. In essence, they are willing. Raises
questions about the source of funding, especially for the independent candidates.
Absolutely.
Somebody like Ekwadonko.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. I mean, Ekwadonko can afford 100,000 cedis to pay for filing papers and file to contest in elections that she knows she can win. Right. That money is going down the drain. Right. I honestly think that the EC, beyond just looking on the face of the document, we need to do some due diligence on the signatures on the documents you take some at random and check if these people really, really believe in the ideals of these individuals or these have been procured. But you raised a very important point. Why are they getting the monies? For those other parties and individuals that we know have no chance in this game, why are they getting the money to put into this?
That is a legitimate question, and we'll be looking at that in our subsequent bulletins going into the elections. But Evans, you talked about the flawed administrative processes, people, you know, seeking the signatures of their members and even buying signatures, if you like. What must the EC be seen to be doing to correct this anomaly?
I think a bit of due diligence must first. We need to go beyond just like any other thing. Somebody submits a document and there is the suspicion of potential fraud. I think we need to crack the whip. We need to make an example. Okay, so in other words, yes, there are signatures, but can the EC say work with the security agencies and say, we have the signatures, but can you check for us if indeed these individuals that have signed? Because there's a spirit behind the law that says that must come in. Right. Because the law believes that you must to want to contest for an election, you must represent a certain base across the country. You must have uniformity. People must believe in what you do. And that is, again, it also circles back to the conversation that we had over the years about stricter laws governing political party financing. You raised a thing about 100,000. In any proper functioning democracy, if you pay 100,000 to do anything, red flags, and there are questions about how you got it. Right. Okay, what job do you do? So, Ekadonko, how did she get the money? It's a question that you ask. Any functioning democracy, they'll look into that. They'll look into how she came back the funding. Not her alone. They could spread it to everybody else. Those who have proper functioning political parties that pay dues, it's obvious to assume where the money is coming from. But where an individual, if you deposit an amount of money in your account and it's not coming from your salary and it's huge, anywhere in the world, it's flagged. Right. Because the question is about where you got the money from. I think we should apply that same principle. Yeah, the sense I'm getting is that the EC should partly be blamed for this. But is it the case that they don't have the capacity to go into this and to ensure that the process is, you know, not as flawed as we see it right now? I think definitely that's one of the cases. It's a capacity. That's why I mentioned that they should partnering, say, the security agencies to do this particular work. As in, ours is to look at it on the face value, but we have to make a determination whether the person's actually qualified. Can you spend 3 days, CID, whatever it is, cross-checking for us the names on the list? I think that's one of the ways to do it. Definitely tightening the laws that govern party financing, so that if somebody puts in 100,000 on the table to say I want to contest, you need to be finding out how they are finding how they brought in the money. In fact, if you go to a bank to pay in a slip, some of the multinational banks, there's a part there where they ask you source of funding. Maybe we should add that as part of the criteria for filing nominations. If it's 100,000 you paid, it's there. There must be a box that says source of funding, where the money came from. If from party contributions, you indicate it. But that makes it easier to track, right? If you say you from your personal sources, question, what work do you do? Can you really afford this in terms of putting up some mechanism we must find? Other than that, we're going to probably wake up one day and all of us, because the Constitution says we qualify, because the basic criteria is in the Constitution. Right. There will be 1,000 people filing and the EC will be struck. Seriously, I mean, it will create an absurdity. You know, that's why we need to check it. I see. Interesting. And finally, I mean, last 4 years, the parties like the APC, Hassan Ayarga's party, also filed to contest, but they were disqualified. Yeah. What are their chances this year, do you think? I mean, APC, all of them, with the exception of NDC and MPP, they have absolutely no chance. Absolutely no chance. So it begs the question, why do they still do it? I honestly have no answer than to suggest or assume a few things. Hassan Ayarga's profile really up there since he threw in his hat into the race on the ticket of the PNC. And second of all, he is, we know, reasonably wealthy, right? And so he can fund what he's doing. Right. What does he get out of it? I mean, some people love the fame that you get. Your name is out there. We're going to be organizing a minority presidential debate this Thursday from 8 p.m. from the UPSA. He's going to be there. You get to be heard. Right. You get to be on television. Something you will never get if he had not thrown in the towel. Ekria Donko has become a household name because she's on the ballot. Political parties sometimes invite her to events, right? They when they're doing solidarity messages, she's invited. You get invitations because you want to contest.
But it beats my imagination why people continue to take her seriously when she doesn't have the structures in place.
Well, I mean, in politics, you might not take somebody seriously, but she can serve a purpose. Okay, so
and what purpose might Ekwa?
That's what I'm saying. I have a strong suspicion that the two main parties somehow, at times, benefit from these other smaller parties being there. Because you possibly believe, I mean, look, I was thinking about Nanakundi Rawlings, right? She's been totally out of the political scene and then she pops up. I mean, because of her origins deep in the NDC, she ran the 31st December Women's Movement quite strongly. And although her influence has waned quite significantly over the years, there are still die-hard people, possibly NDC, who will still like her, okay, who might vote for her just because of Nanakundi Rawlings, regardless of the fact that she's moved away, because of the relationship with the husband and all that, right? There may not be enough, but even if it's 1,000 people who believe that they will vote for her, I mean, doesn't that in New York, that's 1,000 votes that would have probably gone to the NDC.
Exactly.
That will probably go to her. If you're an MPP, that definitely is something that you will love to have. Every vote counts. And so I see that as a possibility. If I'm NDC, I mean, I would love it and not going to do on the ticket.
All right, Evans, stay with me. I will come back to Evans to discuss the number of women in the thick of this particular election. Now, in what is expected to be a historic election, the upcoming December general election has 3 women running for president, with another 3 selected as running mates. As unprecedented as this is, for the first time also, a major political party has a female on its ticket. Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman as running mate to the NDC's John Mahama. This will be the first time there's such heavy female participation in a presidential election. Dr. Joseph Kingsley J is a political and security analyst. He's a senior lecturer also at the University of Cape Coast, and he is on the phone to help us understand what this means to this year's election. Also, head of our political desk, Evans Mensah, is still here with us. Let me start with you, Dr. J. Many thanks for your time. What is accounting for such an unprecedented number of females running for the presidency? We have the likes of the PPP's Bridget Jogbenuku and the NDP's Nanakundi Rawlings, among others. And let's not forget the running mates as well. What do you think is accounting for this heightened interest?
Well, good afternoon to your listeners and viewers, and thanks for having me. Well, that's a good question. Let me state that Ghana is late in doing this. We're just joining the new page in politics and governance in the world, and particularly in Africa. Countries like Liberia, Chad, and Malawi have already had, presidents, female presidents. When it comes to vice presidents or vice presidential candidates, we've had over 15 countries, Uganda beginning, the Gambia following, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Burundi, Malawi, Mauritius. These countries have all had running mate vice presidents. So we are just joining a new page in politics and governance. So it's not surprising that we're now beginning to have many women in our political fray. And also, you should note that our population has 51% being women and 49% being men. Men have dominated women over a long period. And I think women are beginning to accept themselves in the area of politics.
The world is evolving and we're just following suit. Is that it?
Yes.
All right. So, but what are their chances, realistically speaking?
Will you repeat? I didn't hear you.
I was asking about the chances of these women.
Well, in politics, you have to do strategic marketing. So it's not just the selection of a woman that makes the case. You have to manage the woman well. You have to look at her integrity. You have to look at her connection to the party and also the so-called grassroots, and her own popularity among the people. So the mere fact that we need women to join the political fray, governance and politics, does not mean that you select anybody at all as a woman to lead a party or to be presidential candidate. She must have a clout that is exciting and which people would be attracted to. I don't know the rest so much, but I think I know the NDC candidate who was my vice president. And for me, her selection, my vice chancellor, I should say, her selection is smart and strategic. I think so. The reason I say so is that, you know, the NDC has won elections with running mates from the central region. And in politics, you don't change a winning team. They won with Accra, they won with Atamils, they won, and I think they are following up. They think that they can win with this woman, Nana. The reason, perhaps, is that, you know, the central region is a swing region, and for all you know, wherever they have voted for, or the direction of their votes always wins. And you can talk about 2016, they voted massively for the NPP. Previously, I think 2012, they voted massively for the NDC. And each time they have voted massively for a party, that party wins. So selecting somebody who comes from the environs of Cape Coast, I think it's a commendable. So this thing may do the trick. So it's not just she being a woman, but her integrity and also the fact that her selection follows the swing region fray or the swing region trajectory.
I will come back to you, Dr. J. I will come back to you, but Evans is still in the studio with me. Evans, and I'm going to pose that same question to you about their chances of winning this election. A lot of factors come into play when people decide to, you know, vote for one person or the other. Do you think that being a woman alone can earn her a lot more votes than will be anticipated?
No, not at all. Not for any of the possibly 3 presidential aspirants if the EC clears them both, and definitely not for Jane as well. I mean, the research shows that women do not necessarily vote for women. I mean, there's volumes of research that's been done about this. One particular one that did focus groups across the country, and one of the things they found was that a lot of the women we were talking to did not vote for their own when it comes to the election. So that is established. The next level of it is it constantly has been mentioned that women make up 51% of the population. I mean, but as we've seen, it doesn't necessarily translate into votes. I mean, if it did, we have, I mean, every woman who stands at the parliamentary level would have won. But that's not the case. I mean, so it tells you, comes back to the point that research has pointed that they not necessarily will make an impact. I mean, so for the 3, because if they perform well and they win, you have to credit her as much as you credit him. Right. And people will say, wow, we thought women can do it. See what Jane and John did. And so that for me holds a lot in terms of how they perform on December 7th.
Dr. J, and Evan spoke about the Jane and John duo. Now, my question to you is, what will this mean for future female representation, if indeed it works out for the NDC?
Yeah, I think that we must look at the dynamics. I agree largely with your brother there, but I must say that, you know, many of the women who have joined the political fray have come from smaller parties. Now we are looking at a woman who has joined one of the major parties in this country. So, apart from this, her popularity is also very important. And she's popular already because having been vice chancellor of a university, I think her name is a household one now. In politics, it is not the opposition that wins. It is the ruling party that fails to win. The opposition has nothing to give, that I have built this, I've built this road. They may refer to the past. The performance of the Mahama Nana ticket would depend largely on how the NPP has performed and how they sell whatever they have done and their political marketing strategies. If they fail to do that, and if they fail to tell it as it is, and which many people know and others may not know, if they are able to popularize whatever they have done, then they are likely to win. Other than that, as I said, the opposition only points to your weaknesses, and therefore the more weaknesses they point to, as was done in 2016, the more the likelihood that the opposition party is winning. So it's not just that Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman is a woman, but we are looking at her competence, and we are looking at how the political party she belongs to would manage her. We are looking at her messages. We are looking at the issues relating to what she thinks she could do to help the presidential candidate. If that sells, then the NPP would have a good run for their money.
That's Dr. Kingsley J. He's a political and security analyst. Let's wrap up with Evans, head of our political desk here at JoyNews, on this issue. You mentioned the minority political parties and a debate that we'll be holding later this week. Tell us about that.
So we're going to have 5 of the presidential aspirants for 5 political parties: the PNC, the CPP, the PPP, APC, and the LPG. Candidates, Asan Ayariga, Ivor Greenstreet, Madame Jubanduku, who've just talked about, Apasera, will all be on the same stage debating the issues. We expect it to be pretty fair because a lot of them have put out the manifestos. We're going to be asking them questions on the manifestos and interrogating them. We're going to get questions from audiences as well in the auditorium at the UPSA, but also from social media. And we expect that to be very grueling and interactive as well. It's Thursday, 8 p.m. here on JoyNews and on Joy FM and on Love FM as well.
All right, and do stay here on your election headquarters. In our subsequent bulletins, we'll be bringing you more details on this upcoming debate. But you're watching Election Brief with me, Arba Kumsi. We're taking a short breather. Still ahead, Asante Hene Otumfuo II charges political parties to follow laid-down procedures in resolving disputes which may arise during the December elections.
Shares here to abandon Tiazia Juma, Wakaya or the Faso. Sana me two Munina for say, Yamje, Nebibia, 2 years and 2 Bibahua, Yamfakwan, Papa Sony and Fanya.
You're welcome back. President Akufo-Addo has cast sword for construction work to begin on the 275-meter long bridge across the Black Volta. The project, pegged at 26,458,521 cedis, will be undertaken by Grenai Engineering Limited. The president cut the sword as part of his tour of the Upper West region. JoyNews' Rafiq Salam has more.
There are about 183 communities that are lying close to the Black Volta, who divides Ghana and its northern neighbor Burkina Faso. Despite the symbiotic and blood relationship that exists between residents of the communities, they were separated by the colonialists and has remained till today. The Black Volta therefore serves as a divide between the two countries. Several Ghanaian governments in the past have on their agenda to construct a bridge over the Black Volta to ease their traveling burden, which is mostly done using canoes, but none has been able to fulfill that dream. So when President Akufo-Addo at the 2017 Cabinet Festival of the chiefs and people of the Lower Traditional area made a pledge on the construction of the 275-meter bridge at Dikpe. Many thought it was going to be added to what is referred to here as the list of unfulfilled chain of cabinet promises. However, President Akufo-Addo had other ideas. He finally cut the sword for work to begin on the project after bilateral discussions with officials from Burkina Faso.
Awarded to Messieurs Green Eye Engineering Limited will cost 26,458,521 euros and will be completed in 24 months. The project consists of the following components. 1. Construction of a 275-meter-long bridge. 2. Construction of 12 kilometers of Loro town roads and bypass. 3. Construction of a rest stop consisting of a lorry park, a mini market, and facilities for the police service, immigration service, and the customs division of the Ghana Revenue Authority. 4. Construction of a toll plaza. And 5thly, construction of an axle load way station. Once completed, the project will serve several purposes. It will open up communities in the area, strengthen regional integration, improve all year-round access to schools, hospitals, and markets, eliminate interruptions in transporting people, farm produce, and other items during the rainy season, and avoid long detours, resulting in reduced transport costs and travel time.
Deputy Minister of Roads and Highways, Anthony Abeyefa-Kabo, was visibly excited about the project, stating that it is a dream come true.
The wish of the late Abeyefa-Kabo, one of the pillars of our tradition, was to see this bridge completed. And I'm happy that one of his own from the tradition, the last keep of the old block, is fulfilling this destiny, is fulfilling this prophecy under your leadership. I am most grateful, Mr. President, for all that you have done for my people. And I believe that on the 7th December, Mr. President, in the 2016 election, you did not win in Lora. But you have been to Lora 5 times. Our own brother, John Mahama, came here some weeks back. It was a sad occurrence. As President of the Republic, he never visited us. We invited him for cabinet, he never showed up. We invited him for many events, he never showed up. It is your government, it is you, Mr. President, who have listened to the people, you have attended our festival, you have engaged with us, and you have given us monumental development.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam, Dikpe.
Now, Asante Hene Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II is charging political parties to use the courts to address their concerns if they are unhappy with the results of the 2020 polls. Several African countries have been torn down by violence in the lead-up to elections, while the Asante Hene wants politicians to stick to an issues-based campaign rather than commentary that will fuel tensions ahead of the December 7 elections. He spoke when the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, paid a courtesy call on him at the Minshia Palace as he begins his tour of the Ashanti region.
Say Oba Bedi Juma say Naja over her papa or Hansan Wako.
Obedi Juma say was a normal hat. Was the Bencham Papa and San Wako.
Say no crap, Nim says, say a man your some no say better than Ghana for who say ya Juma just see a bonnet do rosa du Musinamia.
The song said, Better for whom said, where Juma. He said, the way you open the room, hopefully the Musam Pat. Said the Musisia.
I try boss and so I church him will be able to see a mother share and Sunday.
The morning in our mouth was it. My church said the share and son. Yeah, I could do it.
Okay, and Tokwanya before.
Say, the jailer say, was it not the fact and then before?
Among your phone, you know, will be a the obit me I had the on so I had the Tutu one, a Ghana for nothing.
Be able to with my year. Why that's all said, oh, yeah, Bruno, I'm for you know.
ehunu ne saa na mbre no duru so a nipa no akɔkyerɛ sɛ we na egisi yɛ saa ma na toa so yeye
what the rules are na say the two one mo fo nyire hu an say we na dey say nsa bit ma yɛ say bit ma so na yeye
ya chama wo sem pai mo ko na me bɔ ma yɛ nyinaa
wo se ɔdɔ me bru mpa ya na wo so e bɔ mo nyinaa
yɛ pento kwa ne yɛ mpɛ hwi yɛ ni ma bia ka Ghana ho
yɛ pento kwa yɛ mpɛ hwi yɛ ya na say be do bɔ mo bɔ no you know ma bia ka Ghana kwa ho
tiyere na oni akro no de oji so ye be ma Ghana fo ahunu so betumi aye wo ka kire wo mu a wo bra so de adwen be fa ho ne ato ama
ye na oni akro no do betumi aye wo ka cha manfo a no mu nyina se be adwen fa ho na ye hu sampa ye de so sa e betumi abo ma Ghana ma koso
se o msi be ifri na kopim abosumi dumienum no ye potem ha West Africa ha nko enkrobe num na ebeto aba
the free samria eti hey akopim bo nya bosumi num no o se be amante ha West Africa ha so no se be nkrom no.
Well, Dr. Baumia assured the Asantehene that the message of peace will be preached alongside the campaign message.
We manate otum for say ohunye ha anapeya yamba no boni ye ba ni nsirem time aso a ye bo apro wo Ghana ha nyina na enna na mebe do Asante region me tumi start say me konenam aha ansana mabafi here first gise me ba ha asase wura ho na mabegye mabesre kwan na mesre kwan so a na mabegye nhira so aka ho before metimi akobo apro no na asema e wo ho no say ye pese ye twere ya adwen se de nipa betie ejuma ya ye na o sa adwen no eso omnia ye beka se omom vote ma Nana Adodanko Akufo-Addo ene MPP Ashebegye fo nyina na ntimi ntoaso ni na ye ka say 4 more to do more no sa message no na ye di nam adwenkyere message because ye pese ye wi a na asumdwe da so wo ho Ghana ha na obia ntokotokwa bi ensi so sa asem na ye di nam no kakra me ba ha na ma besrewo ma me kwan na shira yempa to ni nyina na yen bo ejuma no da wase na.
Let's get the latest on the Vice President's tour of the Ashanti region. Nanayao Jima is our man on the ground. He joins us on the phone. Nanayao, what has the message been, the message that the Vice President has been preaching?
President not commissioned a 200-bed unit dormitory for the Mampong Senior High School, and the Vice President has been touting the achievements of the NPP so far in the area of education, and he also encouraged Ghanaians to vote the NPP once again if Ghanaians want to put the economy of Ghana among the modern economies of the world. So the Vice President from here will move to the Mampong town itself to cut sod for construction of the Mampong town road.
Jima there with an update of the Vice President's tour in the Ashanti region. Now, the national organizer of the New Patriotic Party, Samia Uku, says their members will be vigilant on election day to ensure free, fair and transparent general elections. Speaking at the Teachers Conference Volta 2020 in Ho, Mr. Uku said the NPP will not succumb to any form of intimidation aimed at restricting them from campaigning in any part of the country.
I want to appeal to you as our teachers. Let's not take things for granted. For many of you and your colleagues, you will be agents. We are going to be officials, you and your colleagues. Because when the Electoral Commission is recruiting, mostly they are teachers. The NPP don't want to be favored in these polls, but the NPP will remain vigilant and ensure every ballot is counted and counted properly. We don't expect our opponents to be favored, and no region will be declared a no-go area in this united Ghana. Wherever we need to campaign, I can assure you as a party, we will campaign. We will campaign to teachers across the country, nurses across the country, traders across the country, students across the country. Each and every voter will hear our message of hope against hopelessness from Mahama. On the ballot paper will be a choice between prosperity and poverty. And we stand with God's side, that is the MPP. We stand with Nanado's side. On the ballot paper will also be a choice between competence and incompetence. And on the paper will be a choice between the doomsday we've ended and someone who wants to continue from where he left off. The presidency will not be for mistakes again. We don't have time to waste again. You cannot be from assemblyman to presiding member, to a member of parliament, to a deputy minister, to a minister, to vice president, and to president. What again? Ghana, you alone your own. Volta is alive, and Volta will make history come December 2020. We will not be intimidated in this election. We refuse to be intimidated in this election. So if someone thinks he's still a World Bank and has forgotten that he's been reduced to a microfinance, then the person has a problem. And that is why the NDC is uncomfortable anytime we are making an entry into this region. The NDC is still living under a very dangerous illusion. You are a leader when you turn and the people are following you. But the moment you turn and the people are no longer following, then that day you are taking a walk, you are no longer leading them. And that is what is happening in the Volta region. The NDC had a health work not long ago in this particular municipality, and you could count the number of people. No amount of deliberate sabotage, hiding behind insurgents, will stop the MPP's victory come December.
Still here on Election Brief with me, Araba Kumsin. Let's stay on the MPP because Member of Parliament for Subin says he will ensure the NPP secures more than 80% of valid votes cast in the constituency come December 7. Eugene Boachintri believes after submitting his nomination forms, the hard work begins and he's ready to make history. Mohammed Nuruddin reports.
The hard work begins. We are so far on the provisional voters register. There are 73,787 voters on it. No doubt we probably will hit for 74,000 with the one-day registration and what have you. My task and the task before me, myself and my party executives, is to ensure that between 60 to 65,000 of those registered voters vote for Nana Addo Akufo-Addo as a presidential candidate and vote for me as a parliamentary candidate. For the first time in the history of party politics, I want to ensure, with God's guidance and God's assistance, that Nana Addo Akufo-Addo will cross the 80% mark for the first time in the history of party politics in our great constituency. I'm also doing my best to also cross the 80% threshold. That's a deserve a second term, and all our party faithful must rally behind us, put their shoulders to the wheel, and ensure that we win this election convincingly. One round, 54% for the president.
He said the governing New Patriotic Party is working hard to get most of the deplorable rules in the country constructed.
They are all on contract. You can see where we are standing. It's been done. It will take time. We are all everywhere in Ghana needs roads everywhere. So we've done our bit. We are still working hard to ensure that most of our roads get asphalt, not graveling, proper asphaltic roads, which will last for a generation. That's about 30 years. So that's why I'll say to people that we must all be patient with this government for the good works that is put forward. A very visionary leader in the person of the president, with able appointees around him, doing our best to ensure that this country is put on a path of prosperity and progress.
A report by Mohammed Nuruddin.
It's now time for Voters' Voice, and we're taking our Microphones to Ashaman.
Me trying to run about a plow station. I'm a very honey, be a better shedder. Yet I am tongue. And we put your coin ever for our station hall. We be fabric tintin soup, better station our bread. To comfort to me in Baho. And to me, paddy, I come pay a system or do from Subra. Yes, the same. Yes, the same. Yes, the same. Maba, Minye. Me to adi wa shama market. First year to adi omutoma ye pa. O to me ko fan to si ba. Aso na di be chi die. Ana di be san die obeto die obenya. Na so se fi aye nto ade. We ko oba unye hwe ma ye. Obeka se oba be ye bibi ma ye. Na so oba unye hwe ma ye. De adi si ye ye ti o sa na ye da. Iti de wa na ya ba na ye tu no. Iti mi de fi mi nko ade aka ye sisem mu. Na ye hu ni oba no so ni oba be ye ma. Ono so ba na wa nye hwe a. Ono so ye be yi nu. Ti ye sisem. Yes, some of you, yes, some. Yes, some me vote to. Me vote to Bafi, me vote to Pa. Me see some me vote to Bafi, where Miami be me vote to. Me see some. For Nana. Yes, it's same. Yeah, we are quite no man. I are quite. It is a banner yet to me and Perseverance one real. You are quite any man. Some of them kind no follow. You have to fool for your pedada. You are quite new. Young Tadias, one must cast some block room. Young Tadia, Bangana, to me, young baby, Bangi Biana, a young Yajuma, Afonko Bang, Naniskan, Ayanisika, Tinanado. Sir, I do know Fanny the old chum. No, young two are banner fine. Young man, about 4 years, you have 2 man. No, I'll be a bang, Nina. Yes, some. Bakuni say, me one nana sis. Amunya mu kwasukunti munyina anyim sese ni agumiso. Enti nana dia, me dia mempe. Wa mu kwasukwa mu trafie sa amu anyim. Enti me brewa we na ma bresa. Enti nana dia no way. Me sesam wa apampa no mpese make it debut. Debia mi kwachi ma wi ansu eto menina mu awi ebo a menina mu nti me pede obeba beboa me na me house nti me sesam ana boa ya pa wa ma ye nyanso free ya ma ko school free obi antuma nana o muntuma nana for nana na eko nana kufu ado na eko muntuma no muntuma papa muntuma I am muntuma nana na eko baumia na eko why na empa de pa yepe MPP for nyina ye ni papa ushi abrabore din ye fita for ebre okada ye aduma kura enko ye oboa obe free to no for more oboa for more to do more na eko yes same na for more Bepese obia vote ma papa no. In fact, ni oye no every adwini inti aseso. Ye ma ako school free. Obia mo vote ma no for more for nana. No na beto ama school free water wa dey ama free. Light pay free and no na beto ama no. Yes, samu. Ni na no omunim na muka ye bra. Free education muka na enya juma o. Enya juma. Ye mana ma bet na via ye bi mo anyim ye tunu mam na kasa no wa hwadi me awie o ye bra wa hwadi me wa body bra ye afi de ye sisu asa ye hu ye maso nti ye ba sisanu ye tunu afisu your mama was no first no yes enye ekura no enda ekufu adoba ye no wa say ma ye kura ya brabo nya besa enti ye sisu de ye ba sisu mami fo no mo kasa mo sitam ne de o ma ya brewa wie ye no afere ya wo ye ma abekọ school enya free education na abno be say ya aju ye tiaska ema ye ma enti ye sitam office ma ye ho to ye said, yeah, it's going to son. Yes, can be the job you. What are you about? What are you about? I didn't hear. As I said, you can't use the money bill or be able to money bill and the town cop your own call. Yes, it's light free now, Muso Mamma. Uko top light, no point free in this hour. Usuani Kakanaya, best light where the water it is a free kura. Into Anjana Muhammad Branashe, into Answer Muhammad Banayashe.
Now let's wrap up with the musician Stonebwoy, who has been talking politics. And as you know, some candidates are heading into the elections as independents. Well, Stonebwoy believes that going as an independent is a waste of time. He spoke to Paul Adom Otre on Good Evening Ghana.
Which is, I mean, like you leave everything and now you're a politician. Yes. You see, I have visions. I have visions of serving, which I'm still serving because my whole life I'm serving people. If Stonebwoy don't release music, I mean, some people might get furious. They might march up to my house and say, drop that music, you know. But I think to a larger extent, it serves people. It takes people out of their sadness, you know. Sometimes the music makes you sad because it reminds you of something. You know, so I'm still serving people in all capacities. I have a foundation which is a team of myself and a few people, and they just did a donation. She Loves Stonebwoy, Haji Amodi, and I. She's part of a strong member of the foundation, so we get to raise funds to do certain things. I think last time in the news we raised some funds and we got a car for Ajikot and a former music producer in Ghana, and pay bills of people. You know, yesterday a guy had an accident before and his situation was, you know, so I'm always serving people the best way I can. So if I may have to assume a political position to serve them, it will be difficult a little because then there's a divide. I think I understand my space enough to know that being an independent is somewhat a waste of time because, hey, sorry, not to say to disrespect any independent candidate, but I'm talking this for myself. I may have to, if there's a ship already going, I mean, it's better to join them. Join one ship and then also add something to what you want to add up. So in my opinion, it might sound very somewhere, you might think being an independent candidate will survive, but in this Ghana here we are, and I love to say the truth, you have to join ways. You have to be a part of the foundations that have already been built to also do yours, and that is where it will be difficult for you to go one way or the other. Because it's not going one way or the other. It's not the problem. The problem is now with all these masses that you have independently served.
Musician Stonebwoy, they're wrapping up today's election brief. I'm Arba Kumsin. There's more news on elections when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Thanks for watching. Join us same time tomorrow.